Okay, Genesis chapter 26. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the earlier famine of Abraham's time, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and your descendants I will give all these lands, and will confirm the oath I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give them all these lands. And through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed, because Abraham obeyed me and kept my requirements, my commands, my decrees, and my laws." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. So this sounds like the promise that Abraham was given by God is now being passed on to his son Isaac. Sounds like the same promise. And he says the reason he's going to do this is because Abraham obeyed him, kept his requirements, his commands, his decrees, and his laws. So then Isaac also obeys, because in verse 6 it says, "So Isaac stayed in Gerar." So it must have been tempting, since it was a famine, it must have been tempting to go down to Egypt, that God would go out of his way and say, the Lord appeared to Isaac and said, and this is in verse 2, "Do not go down to Egypt." So, Egypt must have been like like a city that was still doing well even when the country was doing poor. It must have been the norm to run to Egypt when there was a problem, because we know that was done before by Abraham. Okay, so the promise is passed on to Isaac, and Isaac obeys. Verse 7, when the men of that place asked him about his wife, he said, "She is my sister," because he was afraid to say, "She is my wife." He thought the men of this place might kill me on account of Rebekah, because she is beautiful. Boy, like father, like son, right? We've heard this one before. His father must have told the story, and he must have thought, well, it worked for him, so I'll try it. So when the men of that place, Gerar, asked him about his wife, he said, "She is my sister," because he was afraid to say, "She is my wife. She was beautiful." Verse 8, when Isaac had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. So sometimes I had heard these people would do a lot of stuff on their roofs. So maybe they were up on the roof. Maybe he was looking in a window or something. Verse 9, so Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, "She is really your wife." So now he's mad, because he had heard either directly from Isaac or through the rumors that Rebekah was Isaac's sister. So Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, "She is really your wife. Why did you say, 'She is my sister'?" Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might lose my wife on account of her." Then Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the men might well have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So it's kind of neat to hear that it sounds like Abimelech was a moral guy, or at least had a fear of God or a fear of curses coming on people when they did things immorally. Verse 11, so Abimelech gave orders to all the people, "Anyone who molests this man or his wife shall surely be put to death." It's kind of, think about that. Why would the king say that unless these things actually happened? So it must have happened, kind of like, I guess, like in a prison where a man could get molested. They're in what appears to be a city or a town or something. We know it's not Egypt, it's Gerar. And the king has to say, "Don't molest this man or his wife, and if you do, you'll be put to death." Verse 12, Isaac planted crops in that land, and the same year reaped 100-fold, because the Lord blessed him. You know what 100-fold is? That's 100 times. So he planted crops and he reaped 100 times what he really planted. And you say, well, how can that be? Well, somehow it must have spread or multiplied or something. I'm not a farmer, so I really don't know. But somehow it became 100 times what he had planted. Like maybe, you plant one tomato seed and you get 100 tomatoes on that plant. That would be 100 times, wouldn't it? I wouldn't think you would get 100 tomato plants. All right, so verse 13, the man became rich. Well, no kidding. He just got 100% return on his investment. Well, more than 100%. I mean, he got his investments times 100. So what would that be? I don't know, 1,000 times? I think. I don't know. Okay, so the man became rich and his wealth continued to grow until he became very wealthy. He had so many flocks and herds and servants that the Philistines envied him. Well, that can't be good. Verse 15, so all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the time of his father Abraham, the Philistines stopped up, filling them with earth. So they got envious, so they either did this out in the open or they snuck around, but they tried to fill in all the wells that Abraham had passed on to Isaac. Now, why would they do that? Well, think water would be like gold in a desert area. Water is very, very valuable. So by stopping it up, you're not going to be able to feed your livestock. You're not going to be able to water your gardens. You're not yourself going to be able to drink anything. Verse 16, then Abimelech said to Isaac, move away from us. You have become too powerful for us. Ooh, so it almost sounds like Abimelech sent the order to plug up all the wells. And then he went to Isaac and said, go away. Because now Isaac is powerful with wealth and probably people and livestock. And workers, servants helping him or whatever. And so they were probably like a small army or a big army, but it concerned Abimelech, who was the king of the Philistines. So Abimelech said to Isaac, move away from us, you have become too powerful for us. Verse 17, so Isaac moved away from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar and settled there. Verse 18, Isaac reopened the wells that had been dug in the time of his father Abraham, which the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham died, and he gave them the same names his father had given them. Verse 19, Isaac's servants dug in the valley and discovered a well with fresh water there. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen and said, the water is ours. They didn't necessarily claim the well is theirs, but they claimed that the water was theirs. So he named the well Esek because they disputed with him. And here we go again. Names meant something. So Esek, E-S-E-K, must have meant something to do with a dispute. Or property that was disputed. Verse 21, then they dug another well, but they quarreled over that one also. So he named it Sitnah. It must have meant something. I don't know what. Maybe it meant second quarrel or second dispute. Verse 23, he moved on from there and dug another well, and no one quarreled over it. He named it Rehoboth, saying, now the Lord has given us room, and we will flourish in the land. So every time he had problems, he moved on, dug another well, and when he finally got far enough away, I guess, to where nobody would bicker over that well, he said, okay, now we can settle here. Verse 21, from there he went up to Beersheba. That night the Lord appeared to him and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and will increase the number of your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham. So again, he's saying, I'm going to do this to you, but for Abraham who obeyed me. Verse 25, Isaac built an altar there and called on the name of the Lord. There he pitched his tent, and there his servants dug a well. Called on the name of the Lord. Could this be really calling him, O Lord? Or is this another way of saying he prayed to God? I don't know. So he built an altar, called on the name of the Lord, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, so that's Yahweh, pitched his tent, and his servants dug a well there. So he's already got this well that he named Rehoboth, that he said we could flourish there, and now he's has his servants digging another well where the Lord appeared to him. Verse 26, meanwhile, Abimelech had come to him from Gerar with Ahuzeth, his personal advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his forces. Isaac asked them, why have you come to me, since you were hostile to me and sent me away? So Isaac's a little bit suspicious. Hey, what are you doing coming here with the leader of your army and your personal advisor when you told me to leave your area? Verse 28, they answered, we saw clearly that the Lord, and this is Yahweh, so they know God's name, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, was with you. So we said there ought to be a sworn agreement between us and you. Let us make a treaty with you that you will do us no harm, just as we did not molest you, but always treated you well and sent you away in peace. And now you are blessed by the Lord. So they really are afraid of this man's wealth and power. So not only did they send them away, but his personal advisor probably said to him, hey, why don't we go make a treaty with them? I'd rather have them on our side than against us. You know, I mean, you sent him away, he's probably mad at us, and we don't need him turning on us. He could still turn on us, or whatever. Or become friends with our enemies or something. So verse 30, Isaac then made a feast for them, and they ate and drank. Early the next morning the men swore an oath to each other. Then Isaac sent them on their way, and they left him in peace. That day Isaac's servants came and told him about the well they had dug. They said, we've found water. He called it Sheba. And to this day the name of the town has been Beersheba. So they named it after the well, which was called Sheba. Verse 34, when Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and also Basmath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. They were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Okay, so we're right in the middle of a chapter, and we're changing to another story. Now, keep in mind, in the original script, there were no chapters or verses, so it's not like all of a sudden someone just changed thoughts. I mean, that's how they would write. So this very well we could have decided to make this the beginning of the next chapter if we had wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to re-begin this new thought pattern now. Verse 34, when Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and also Basmath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. They were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Oh, actually, wow, that's the end of that chapter. In fact, glancing at the next chapter, it talks about that. So I think they probably should have started with a new chapter right there. But never mind. I had nothing to do with it. Nobody asked me. All right. Have a great day. Bye.